One sec, yo. There we go. Camera's on finally. Okay, there we go. All right. Not a good game. Not good to see tonight. I was not happy with tonight's performance, but it's a dub, and the Bulls needed to get this win. So I guess they took care of business in the end, but it still doesn't look very good. Um, Bulls moved to 17-21 in this Charlotte game where the Bulls. I don't think the Bulls should have necessarily won like convincingly, but it shouldn't have went to overtime, obviously. And my God, man, I don't know what to say about this offense. This offense is just like it will continue to just baffle me how much this team will just struggle on offense like in the most randomest ways I've ever seen in my life. Not good whatsoever down the stretch. We can obviously talk about the obvious with DeRozan isolations, but there's a little bit more that I want to get into about that. But in the end, the Bulls pulled this one out, led by Kobe White, who I thought had a very good game. And I honestly thought should have been the lead decision maker down the stretch, but was not the lead decision maker for some reason. And the Bulls ended up, at least pulling this one out in OT. Bulls did not score in the last 3 minutes and 39 seconds of this regulation. Or sorry, I gotta think they had 1 point, I should say. And that led to this game going to overtime when honestly this Bulls should have won probably by 10 or more. After that final timeout by the Hornets, before getting to like the final stretch there. Bulls somehow were able to on the road put their foot on the gas pedal. They got 6 quick points in overtime, and it was pretty much sealed from there. So good job, I guess, in OT. OT on the road is not easy. So I think that's something to give them some pretty big praise for. But the way that they got here tonight was terrible. This was absolutely terrible with how this team let the Hornets kind of stick around all game. And then down the stretch, man, it baffles me to my like every inch of my bone. I'm just like, what is happening? So a lot of kind of get through tonight, but we'll see if my internet kind of stays okay for the moment. Right now we're looking good, but hopefully my internet doesn't just suddenly cut out randomly. But yeah, not good. So give me your thoughts on it. Just go ahead and give me your thoughts on this one because I'm sure a lot of you are upset with how this one turned out. At least it's not an L, obviously, but yeah, this should have 1000% been a lot better than what we saw tonight. So, yeah, I'm gonna try not to be too critical of some people tonight. Some of the things that I saw. What's going on, Delbert? How you doing? All right. So, a couple things that I just want to say. In the first game against the Hornets, which was 3 days ago. Okay, so let's go back all the way to Friday. The Bulls kept Terry Rozier in check, right? Miles Bridges was the guy that was kind of going off for the Hornets, and I was shocked he didn't get more shots. But Terry Rozier couldn't score in the first half. He had a nice third quarter, but then only finished with 15 points on 5 of 17 shooting, right? This game that did not happen. And we even had Caruso for this game. So like obviously this doesn't mean like, oh, Caruso's a terrible defender. It just shows that Rozier is a bit of a streaky player. And the Bulls did not do as good of a job as they did on Friday night, compared to what they did today. The biggest thing in my opinion, it's not necessarily all these shots that Rozier was hitting. Rozier was hitting some step back shots that I'm just like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna tip the cap to you. You hit a nice shot. Good job. The biggest thing to me is this: the Bulls sent him to the free throw lines 12 times, and there was a moment where Rozier had 6 free throws in 52 seconds because he got fouled on 2 3-point shots. One was by Ayo Dosunmu, the other was by Nikola Vucevic, and then there was even a foul that was called earlier on Alex Caruso when Rozier hit a 3 that was taken away. But it just seems like the Bulls, for whatever reason tonight, they were just like, hey, yeah, let's foul Terry Rozier on jump shots for whatever reason. I don't know why. And this is that to me is the big killer. It's not necessarily because he went 10 of 18 from the field and he hit 7 of 13 from 3. Like, hey, that's nice. But it's these 12 free throws that I thought were 1,000% avoidable. Like, instead of him shooting 12, he should have maybe shot 6. That was the big killer. And I don't know what the Bulls were doing for, like, it just seemed like they forgot everything that like the scouting report that was given to them on Friday night. They'd say, okay, we're just going to forget about it completely. And we're just going to run into Terry Rozier every time he shoots a jump shot. And basically just let him kind of just toy with you, knowing that if he, for some reason, got you a little bit off balance, you're just gonna foul him. So I don't know what this was tonight against Terry Rozier. Bridges also had another nice game tonight. So he had 24 points. So I mean, this seemed like the constant. This was obviously the big thing that just was terrible tonight. And that was the big difference. And everything else is just like, this isn't like anything spectacular by the Hornets. It's very similar to like this box score, right? And the Hornets, obviously, in this game, they're missing Cody Martin, and then they started last game with PJ Washington, but he got injured, so they have no PJ Washington tonight. So the Hornets pretty much had 5-6 guys out in this game that are like key players. And the Bulls, I thought in this one, would come back and be like, okay, it's probably going to be a little bit more tougher because, playing a team back-to-back, the second game, if you win the first game, the second game is always much tougher. But they should still take care of business tonight. There shouldn't be any reason why this Hornets team should even be threatening to get a victory down the stretch. The Bulls should be winning this game by probably like 10 points or more. And there's no way this game should go into overtime. And yet it went into overtime. The Bulls almost blew it. But they were to pull it out in the end. So this just really kind of like it puts together my whole entire point of like, I don't know what this Bulls team is still. I'm still on the team of like, we need major changes. So if you're looking to trade Zach, then you better be looking to trade DeRozan and Vooch too. Also trade Alex Caruso. But it doesn't seem like the front office is going to do that. So if they're just going to trade Zach, then I still think this team is not going anywhere. We're now in the 9th seed because the Atlanta Hawks have officially given up. The Toronto Raptors have also given up trading away OG Anunoby, and the Brooklyn Nets suck. So the Bulls are now in the 9th seed, and they're 4.5 games out of this 8th seed, which I think the Miami Heat actually won tonight. So I don't know if the Bulls can even get up to the 8th seed with how things kind of go with this team. They play pretty much around 500 basketball anyway. Yes, they're 2-0 in their last 2 games, but it's against the Charlotte Hornets, so that's nothing spectacular. NBA.com won't load for some I don't know why. So I don't know, man. This team on offense, in my opinion, it just continues to be too much of a question mark. The Bulls tonight, I'm gonna give them credit for a couple of things. One, they got a lot of points in the paint. They did a good job with this. They had 62 points in the paint in total. And they also got to the free throw line a decent amount with 24 free throws at 20 made. Okay, that's good. Like, I'll give them credit for that. The problem is that they only shot 26 threes. And I've always said, even if you don't want to shoot threes, if you're a team that attacks the paint mostly, you still got to hit the 30 mark in terms of 3-point shots. The Bulls only shot 13 threes in the first half. They shot 13 threes in the second half in overtime. So it just shows you that this team still isn't taking enough 3-point shots. And this was even still the case, in my opinion, when the Bulls went on that little run. They weren't really taking that many 3-point shots. They were just hitting them at a ridiculous rate. They were shooting 42% from 3-point range in like 12 games. Like, that's unsustainable, and it makes up for your lack of shooting because you're just draining everything. Bulls shot 49% overall from the field, and again, good credit to them attacking the paint, but it just doesn't make any sense why this team continues to just be so terrible on the offensive end. The first half, in my opinion, was pretty awful. The Bulls got off to a nice start, and then offense died. Second quarter, the offense was pretty terrible to start, and then the Bulls ended the half pretty nicely. But if you're only scoring 24 and 27 points in quarters, you're in trouble in today's league. It just looks terrible overall. You cannot be scoring in the 20s in today's league for each quarter. You have to get to the 30 mark. It is just basically facts at this point. The Bulls need to get more efficient on the offensive end, whether that's pushing more pace, shooting more threes. We have these nights like tonight where it's like, hey, we had 62 points in the paint. Like, that's nice. But I continue looking at this stat every single time, and the Bulls have moved up one spot into 28th. We're still down here in terms of points in the paint per game. So the points in the paint tonight, what you saw is not consistent, and it has never been consistent with this team. And the offense continues to have these moments where they just die. Third quarter was pretty nice on offensive end. Fourth quarter, I mean, we could talk about the last 3 minutes and 39 seconds, however much we want to, about DeRozan's isolation, and the Bulls' offense was basically coming to a halt down the stretch in crunch time. So, I don't know. It really just does baffle me, and I'm concerned moving forward. I'll say it. As far as killing me with all the isolation plays, it's not necessarily the isolation in a sense. It's the fact of DeRozan's decision making, in my opinion, in the last couple of those possessions on the stretch. The Bulls, technically, if you look at it, they technically ran it's a pick and roll set, right? What it basically is, it's like an Iverson action to try to get DeRozan to switch, right? So that, you know, whether it's Terry Rozier or just like a smaller guard to guard DeRozan, right? And Kobe actually comes off like a pick and roll action to try to get there. So yeah, it's like it is then probably does come down to an isolation, but it initially isn't an isolation. I just think DeRozan's decision making down the stretch there, it made no sense in my opinion, because there were too many times where he was very clearly doubled. Or he was trying to drive and there was a defender coming on over and he just decided not to throw it back out, and I don't know why. And while I understand that DeRozan is the guy right now down the stretch, and he, you know, during this little stretch here, obviously he was the best player on the team and was one of the leaders, right? And he, no matter, since he's been in the Bulls uniform, he's been one of the best clutch players in the game. The problem that I continue just to see this, and I can't ever like figure this out if it's like a Billy Donovan thing or if it's specifically on DeRozan and the players. Like there are just some games where you shouldn't be doing this. Like you just shouldn't be having DeRozan just do everything down the stretch or full out isolating him down the stretch. And this was one of those games where you just shouldn't do it. DeRozan didn't really have it going. He didn't have it like an amazing game going. He was missing some shots that he typically makes, and there you could kind of tell that like his jump shot wasn't fully there. Yeah, he had some nice shots tonight, right? But it wasn't like one of those like takeover DeMar DeRozan games, okay? And secondly, Kobe White was the leading scorer going into the fourth quarter, okay? Like Kobe has been the guy throughout this entire game, unless you want to count Drummond and Vooch, but I think still Kobe was the best player this game. And the guards for the Charlotte Hornets could not keep up with Kobe in this one. There's nothing they could have done. The pick and roll defense, when Kobe White was running the pick and roll, they were having trouble guarding him. They didn't know what to do. Whether it was Kobe just straight up like just penetrating and getting to the basket, or the pick and roll defense overcompensating and he was throwing it back out for good looks for his teammates, the Hornets couldn't do anything. And this is one of those games where Kobe needs to be part of the decision making down the stretch. He should be one of the main guys handling the ball and making decisions. That does not necessarily mean he has to take the shot, okay? Because Kobe did have a shot in the last 3 minutes. He took like a 3-point shot with like 2 minutes left to go, and it was unfortunately a little bit forced because it was like a shot clock situation when the clock was winding down. Like that's not what I'm talking about. Like, yeah, I know he can hit those shots, but I want him to just being like going into like a lead decision making type role in this sort of game where he has it going. He's made good decisions pretty much all night, and he's been a big part of the offense tonight. that's not going to be every single game. I'm aware that there are going to be games where Kobe is struggling and he can't hit his shot and he's committing some turnovers, even when he has played well recently. Like, there are just some games where it doesn't have it, and those are the games where DeRozan should be doing should be the main decision maker no matter what down the stretch. But this was just not one of those games, and I don't really know why. It just seems like Billy just doesn't want Kobe to like do this down the stretch. There's a lot of what's happening is Billy is running plays to get DeRozan a switch, and then he's just like giving the ball to DeRozan and just saying go. And while that is a pretty solid overall play, DeRozan just wasn't really having it going tonight, and that to me should be where Kobe gets a chance here. And sure, you can run that play for DeRozan, even when he doesn't really have it going down the stretch. I think that's a good play to run for him, but that shouldn't be every single play. It gets one, readable by the defense, but then number two, Kobe had it going. And the Bulls' first 6 points in overtime, it wasn't a DeRozan isolation. Like, it was everything different. It was like, oh, we're moving the ball back and forth. Kobe's really the one that's like initiating the offense, and it just is like, why couldn't we do this in regulation? So I'm just concerned still moving forward because I was already concerned when the team was playing well that the offense that they were doing was not sustainable, because like we've seen too many times with this team that like the offense has never looked sustainable, no matter who's playing or who's not playing. Okay. The Bulls and the Knicks in the 76ers game before Levine and Vucevic returned, the offense looked pretty treacherous in those two games too. And then now with both Levine and Vucevic returning, and yes, Caruso and P. Will were out in the first Hornets game, the offense looked terrible in both these games. So I'm hoping that maybe when the Bulls go back to like an actual starting lineup again, that things will look better. Because it is a lot of shuffling kind of going on right now in the rotation, and there are some lineups that just have never played with each other for extended period of time. So maybe that's going to help this team on the offensive end, but this offense has to find some sort of way to like truly get some consistency to it. And I'm hoping that it does happen soon, but there's got to be some decisions made, honestly. With maybe team personnel, but also some of the coaching staffs, they got to figure some things out, because what we saw down the stretch tonight was inexcusable, man. Why the yikes? To watch the game late. So the yikes is for this. The yikes is because the Bulls were up by, I think it was 5, or maybe no, sorry, it was like 7. The Hornets called a timeout, and there's like less than 4 minutes left remaining, and the Bulls only scored 1 point in like the last 3 minutes and 39 seconds. And it was just too much DeRozan isolation, in a sense, or I should say too much like DeRozan just playing too slow and like not willing to pass the ball, and it led to a lot of terrible offensive possessions down the stretch, where the Bulls really shouldn't have had those terrible offensive possessions. And not only that, the Bulls let the Hornets kind of stick around this game. The Hornets are 8-25, guys. Okay, like they should not be in this game whatsoever. The Bulls should be winning this by 10 or more. And the Hornets kind of sticked around all game and had a chance to win it at the end, and luckily they just didn't. So that's why the yikes. That looks weird in my opinion. I don't. What do you consider weird? I think in terms of the offensive end, I think he is not shooting some shots I think he should. If you want to say that's weird, then yeah, I agree with you. In terms of his overall movement, though, I am aware that he was questionable for today's game with like right shoulder inflammation and right foot inflammation. But even with those two things being listed on the injury report for him, I still think he's moving pretty well. And I specifically am looking on him defensively. He's looked pretty well on the defensive end. So that's kind of where I'm like, hey, this is pretty good so far. So I don't know. What are you thinking, Noel? I see a Viper Strike. Bright spot I see in Kobe work well with Vooch and Drum. I think that's underrated. Got it. Yeah. To be fair to the Bulls, as bad as the Hornets are, Terry looked beastly today. I agree that Terry looked beastly today, but I think that was more so the Bulls shooting themselves in the foot. And like I kind of said this earlier. I don't know if you heard Viper Strike, but my issue with what happened with Terry today, like it's not the 10 of 18. Like, you know what? If he's gonna shoot 10 of 18, fine. That's fine with me. Okay, that's him. He's hitting some nice shots. To me, the big problem was the 12 free throws, because Terry had 6 free throws where he shot 2 threes and he got fouled on both of them, and he shot 6 free throws in like 52 seconds. That to me is what I had the biggest issue with, because you can't let Terry Rozier get 12 free throws. That's something that can be avoidable, and I thought the Bulls defense did not do a good job whatsoever with that. You can do a better job guarding Terry Rozier and not letting him get to the free throw line 12 times. That was my big problem tonight. He hit some crazy shots. He was hitting some step backs that was just like, hey, that's good defense. That's just better. Oh, okay. Like I'm not denying that part, but yeah, the 12 free throws, in my opinion, was inexcusable. That cannot happen, and I don't know why it did. But the offensive production from Zach wasn't there. I understand there's a bit of a learning curve with sudden emergence of Kobe White, but I expected more, I guess. Well, I think you're kind of seeing, especially down in the stretch here, how much Zach is not going to be involved in the offense, right? Because down the stretch, it was obviously just DeRozan, but you saw that the secondary option was Kobe, right? So Zach was actually just standing in the corner a lot. And that's kind of like the new offense. So I think there's going to be obviously a learning curve for Zach where he's just not going to get the touches. But I also think that we as a fan base need to start understanding there is going to be a learning curve for us too when it comes to Zach, because right now what Zach has to bring to this team right now when he's playing, it's defense, which I think he's done a good job in the past 2 games. Okay, he had that very big defensive possession against Terry Rozier at the end, right? But also, his play on the offensive end is very much suddenly it's going to start looking much less. His points are going to look much less. We're already seeing it this year with DeMar DeRozan, right? That DeRozan's numbers in general are just down, right? And this is part of the new offense that people are calling, that DeRozan and Levine to buy into, is that you're just not going to get the shots that they're used to taking, right? DeRozan is averaging basically a shot less this season. Like, I mean, just look at compared to last season, right? He averaged 17.5 last season. He's averaging 16.5 this year. And then obviously this is with Zach LaVine missing 17 games. So the offense for these guys, their shots are just going to go down. It's just unfortunately the case, for them. This is how that the team is going to be running things, and this is how a lot of fans have asked for this team to run things, is that DeRozan and Levine don't shoot as much. You don't get to shoot as much. You're not going to have as high scoring numbers, but you're going to have 25 plus assists every single night, and hopefully the other guys step up too. My only concern with it is just that I don't know if I trust the others. Like, as much as I want to say, yeah, team ball is great, I don't know if I trust the others, unfortunately. I trust Kobe, but after that, I kind of have my concerns. Also, you might look at a play for me. It's missed shot by Vooch with 2 minutes left in the third quarter. Zach looked like he got mad. He didn't get the ball. I'm wondering what your thoughts are. I mean, I do think, first off, that Zach, kind of turned down some shots tonight. But also, I do think that Zach was also missed a few times, so maybe that was one of the plays. Let's see if NBA.com has it loaded in already. Perfect. I'm gonna guess it's this one. And NBA.com is just not having a good day, I guess. Is it this one, Viper Strike? Because I do remember this play. I think so. Okay. So yeah, in this play, right, like the ball, like genuinely, the ball should have been swung over to Zach because DeRozan and Vooch, if I'm remembering correctly, I'm not entirely sure, but if I remember, it was like a pick and roll between the two of them, and it didn't really go anywhere. I could be wrong about that, but either way, though, you're seeing that the Bulls are setting up for the ball to be swung because Caruso, remember, like we have three guys over here, right? So when Caruso sees Vooch get the ball at the top of the key, he's running this way, right? And setting a screen. So the ball should be swung over to Zach here. And Vooch just decides, I'm not going to give it to Zach. And does this whole thing, which Vooch should have probably passed it out at this point. But then he gets a nice look at it, honestly, and then he just misses it. But yeah, it's not exactly the best play. I'll say that for sure. I do think the ball should have been swung. But I can't exactly complain about the shot selection or the shot overall quality. Was it this one, Viper Strike? Yeah, it was? Okay, yeah. Yeah, I can understand if Zach's upset at that because like the play is supposed to continue, but you know, I'm not gonna be too upset about it. So it was really interesting because I was actually looking at Twitter for like a little bit, and I was like looking at some other people, and they're like, "Hey, we should be throwing the ball to Vooch in the post," and I'm just thinking to myself, "My God, like we don't need to do that, please. For the love of God, let's just not throw the ball to Vooch in the post." I thought the Bulls, like, because they were saying like the Hornets are so small, the Bulls need to get into the paint, and like I was like I was fine with the paint production tonight. Like again, 62 points in the paint. I know this is an overtime, but the Bulls had 24 points in the paint at halftime. So like I didn't really have much of an issue with it, honestly. Yeah, and I think yeah, still the Bulls offense is just having problems. Yeah, there's gonna be some things that need to get worked out still because obviously, you know, Levine coming back in, and it is like they are trying to legitimately play more team ball. So he's just gonna have to get used to not getting the ball a lot. Yeah, the camera and the broadcast looked at Zach and he looked kind of pissed. I mean, I would understand why. It's not an amazing shot. But I mean, if you're gonna be like, if you want to like bring up like, oh, like Zach looked pretty pissed on this, like, I mean, I can also point to you another play where I thought Zach looked pretty unhappy, but I think all of us were kind of unhappy, was this shot. Like, I don't understand what DeRozan's exactly thinking here, but I mean, just look at Zach. He, like, arms are down and everything, and he just like looks at it and like whatever. But I just don't read too much into that because it's like I would also be pissed off at this shot. This was a terrible shot. Okay, so let me talk about a couple of things here because there's some stuff here that I was. Ugh. All right, so this is the last time the Bulls scored or made a bucket. Okay, we don't get the entire play here, but it's basically what it basically is that Kobe's up here, top of the key, and you see basically like it's like a double screen for DeRozan to come up off of here, and you're trying to get the switch, right? Kobe then moves over, and you throw the ball to DeRozan. You got the switch on. You got Rozier to switch on DeRozan, and this is what Billy was trying to get pretty much every single time down the stretch. And it's like, okay, like this is a play that the Bulls have run before. It's not you know too surprising, honestly. So this play then happens where Zach actually gets a pretty decent drive. If NBA.com would function. He gets blocked by Nick Richards here. So this was pretty unfortunate, honestly, because Zach gets to step on Brandon Miller here. He's past him. It's just that Nick Richards is a very good shot blocker, and Zach actually elevated pretty well here. So like, I think like this is the reason why I think Zach looks fine mobility wise. I mean, this is good elevation and everything. He just gets blocked. That's a good shot blocker. So yeah, that's unfortunate. It is what it is. So go to this. This is yet again where it's the same play, right? I mean, like if you just look at this and like I look at the other play, right? It's the exact same set. You got these two guys over here, right? We got Levine and Vooch over here. It's a straight up isolation for DeRozan, but you can see this time that it's Brandon Miller. It's not Terry Rozier. The Bulls didn't get the switch. This is one of those possessions where I don't really understand why we need to go to DeRozan again, because we didn't get the switch on this possession, right? Like we didn't get the switch. Like we don't need to isolate DeRozan if we didn't get the switch. And DeRozan works his magic here, and he gets the foul call. I'm gonna be real, that's probably not a foul, but he gets the call anyway. He gets 1 or 2 free throws. Like, okay, well, I mean, he's made some shots. So this play, this is a pick and roll, right? And this was trying to get the switch. So the DeRozan got the switch. He didn't get anywhere, right? And he throws it out to Kobe, and now there's 5 seconds left on the shot clock. Kobe just basically has to take this. Like, it's just straight up like, okay, Kobe, you just gotta take this shot. So like that's not like people are gonna like yell at me for like what I tweeted out, saying like, well, Kobe did get a shot. Like this doesn't count as a shot. Like, yeah, he took a shot, but this is not him being like a lead decision maker or anything. Like he just basically is just there to shoot. So I was upset at that play too, because I thought the Bulls just didn't get into their stuff quickly enough.
And Caruso probably knew it.
That's a NBA.com has the wrong thing there for whatever reason. So I try clicking this, please.
And the bonus.
Cool. All right. NBA.com is stupid. I'm gonna go over to the box score. Try to pull up that.
Patrick Williams. And the bonus.
Okay, I guess NBA.com just be stupid because this is supposed to be DeMar DeRozan pulling up for a shot. But again, it's not what we're looking for, right? This was also like a pretty quick shot by DeRozan, and he just it didn't look very good. So then this play happens. Right, and you like this is kind of my point earlier, where you're seeing like Zach's in the corner. Okay, like it like being genuine here, Zach's like the 4th option right now. Okay, and I don't know how long this is gonna actually be the case here, but like just being real, this might be the case moving forward, where Zach is like basically the 4th option. Because if you think about it, like at least just how the play is set up. DeRozan's number 1, Kobe's number 2, Vooch is number 3, and then Zach's over here at number 4, right? And Cruz is basically just non-existent. Like, this is honestly where I'm like trying to like figure out like if Billy is going to continue to do this, because when we've seen these sets before, right? Zach and Kobe are switched, right? Usually it's Kobe in this corner and Zach's over here, so Zach's the number 2 option. But again, this just shows you like Zach in this new offense, he's just not going to be scoring the usual numbers that we typically see. I do have my concerns about that because Zach is a rhythm type guy and he needs to like get in a rhythm for a lot of things. So I hope that it doesn't really affect his his overall shooting. But this is what he's gonna have to buy into, honestly. I still think the Bulls need to run more plays for him in general. And maybe he gets more of these plays when, you know, he's back to being like at full strength, because he's clearly still not at full strength at the moment. But right now, though, this is like when Zach has come back, he is not like he's like the number 4 option down the stretch. So keep this in mind. This play here, though, I don't understand what DeRozan's thinking, because he drew 2 over here. Vooch is wide open, and you need to throw this back to Vooch. You still have 11 seconds at this point when he loses the ball. I just don't know what he's even thinking in this possession. This just made no sense. And just so we understand here, right? This play right here, like, I know that a lot of us like to talk about how, like, this is, like, DeRozan's isolating too much. This play itself is not an isolation, okay? This is a pick and roll. And this is just bad decision making, and DeRozan's just being too slow. Like, he, like, slows down right here. I don't know why. He should 1000% the ball needs to go back this way at this moment. Because then, if it does, then if Rozier comes over, you throw it to Kobe, right? And if for some reason, the Hornets recover well on this, then you run a pick and roll with Kobe Wyatt, okay? But this was just terrible. I don't know what this was about. I'm still confused what people were thinking on this play. And then on this play, DeRozan probably got fouled in this one, but he didn't get the call. But either way, we're still looking at not good offense. It still wasn't good offense on the stretch. My God, please, empty.com. I don't know. My internet's fine. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, so this was when they, like, again, like, Zach has never hasn't touched the ball. So Zach finally gets to touch the ball here, and it's a pick and roll with him and Vooch at the top of the key, and you see DeRozan's here. So this is all fine. And I think Zach makes the right decision. He gets doubled, right? Zach sees two. He throws it to Vooch. And Stacy's right that Vooch missed Caruso here in this possession, because right here, right, because Zach got doubled here, Vooch went over, and Vooch caught the ball. Caruso's man had to come on over, Nick Smith, and cover up Vooch because Nick Richards has to fall back and run back, right? Right here, Vooch needs to throw this pass to Caruso. He just didn't. He, like, thought, like, one too many steps ahead. And so DeRozan catches it here. Now, the only thing I will say about this is that DeRozan's probably thinking 2 for 1. So I'm not going to be, like, as upset in this sort of scenario, because it is smart to go for 2 for 1 here. But if the shot isn't there, you still just get a good shot. Like, in the end, you just need to get a good shot. That's just, you just have to do it. And I still don't think DeRozan, like, got a good look at this necessarily. Like, in all honesty, he probably should have just shot this shot that when he caught it. Like, I'm being real, but he doesn't, and so he decides to drive. Probably gets fouled. So again, I'm not going to criticize him too much on this specific play, because he wasn't, like, the main decision maker. He got thrown the ball, made a decision, it just didn't work out. But yeah, still not great. So I don't know, man. There's a lot there that I'm not entirely happy with down the stretch, and this is still the reason why I'm concerned with this Bulls team moving forward. I think this Bulls team is basically kind of almost confirmed. I mean, who knows, but they should be kind of confirmed in the play-in, because Atlanta has kind of said that we're waving the white flag and they're looking to trade some guys, and the Toronto Raptors have already traded OG Anunoby. Those were two competition teams that were looking to try to get into the play-in, and they're kind of already waving the white flag. So because of that, I think the Bulls at this point, we can kind of say that they're probably going to make the play-in tournament. But I have my concerns still. I truly do. And I'm going to be interested to see how this team does moving forward with all these concerns. I agree with you that you said earlier the team should at least won by 10. Terry kept kicking out his feet while shooting, especially the one before Vooch got called. I agree that Terry, like, was kicking out his feet, but that's also just Terry Rozier. That's his shot. If you go watch Terry Rozier, that's what he does. It's how he lands. That should be on the scouting report. And either way, the Bulls should not be putting themselves in a position for that to be called a foul. So yeah, I do think Terry does kick his feet out, but he also does that consistently. So you gotta give him space to land. It's weird. It felt like DeMar was getting better at that ish, and now Zach comes back and it just triggers something in him to ball hog, and those last few possessions, and Kobe didn't touch it at all. And look, I'm not even here saying like I wanted Zach to even like touch the ball in like the last in like crunch time. I'm aware that Zach has had issues in crunch time. Like I'm very much aware. And right now, especially with like how this game was happening for Zach, and he's coming off the bench and still is 100%. I don't want him touching the ball in crunch time. That's fine. And you know, if he's just going to be like a cutter slash a 3-point shooter in crunch time at the moment, I'm fine with that. I think that's also good. And knowing that you have Kobe, that's fine. But like you said, I'm just upset that like why didn't Kobe have the chance to kind of be a lead decision maker down the stretch? That to me is the part that baffles me the most, because while I get it, I get that DeRozan is the guy here and he is a very good player in crunch time. He just wasn't the leading scorer coming into fourth quarter, and Kobe has been very good recently and very good in this game and has made great decisions in this game. And it's not like a lot of people always say like, well, if you watch Kobe, like he's like playing off ball and that's how he's getting all of his shots. Like, no, like Kobe has developed into a good on-ball player at this point. Like we need to stop that narrative that he's still, you know, being off ball and DeRozan's like doing everything in terms of the playmaking. That just isn't the case anymore, okay? Kobe at this point now has shown to me that he can be trusted with the ball, and I need to see him get some opportunities down the stretch, especially when he's having a good game. Again, if he was having a terrible game, then yeah, I'm not going to give it to him. But this was a good game by Kobe, and he should have these opportunities. I'm sure they all thinking the same thing about the Bulls, saying they waved the white flag, looking for Zach LaVine trades. I also think that I mean I was waving the white flag honestly, and I wouldn't be shocked if the other teams were as well. But here's the thing: even if the Bulls were looking to trade Zach, I still don't think this front office was trading DeRozan or Vooch. Like I don't think this front office was waving the white flag. I think they were still like, oh no, we're gonna try. We're gonna 1,000% try still, even if we trade Zach and we don't get much back in return. We just traded Zach, therefore we're gonna try. Like we're gonna try to keep going, which I don't get it. I don't know why you would trade Zach and then be like, yeah, we're gonna still try to make the playoffs. Like that makes no sense. But it's AK, and I don't know what he's doing anyway. So I don't know, man. I honestly think the front office thought that they could trade Zach LaVine for like a very good quality starter, and they're very quickly realizing that's just not the case. So I'm hoping that they figured that out. And if you're gonna actually try here and try to get into, you know, the 6th seed or whatever, then you better be making some moves. I'm aware that you don't have many assets available and you have no room before the luxury tax. But you can't just be like, yeah, we're gonna run the same team back for the 3rd year in a row with the same core and be like, yeah, the team that got to the 10 seed last year, we're gonna try to make the playoffs again this year. It's just stupid. But I fully expect them to do that. No, I agree. I agree that they're going to triple down on the continuity. I completely agree. Yeah, well, yeah, we've alienated him because the roster construction is pretty god awful. Yeah, I should be more positive because this is a win, and Vooch looked good tonight. So like I should be more positive. Like I really should, but man, oh man, like it just brings back to like what we've been watching the last 2 years. Like yeah, the Bulls have had a nice little run with LaVine out, and you know they've looked all right. It's like okay, because even when Zach was off the court tonight, the offense just still looked pretty treacherous. So, I don't know. I have like I have a lot of doubts in my head right now about this team still, and we're literally a month away from the trade deadline. So I'm interested to see what the front office is actually gonna do, which could be nothing. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's gonna be very interesting to watch. First year I started watching the Bulls. They won a championship. I'm not able to watch now. I see your analysis. It's really good. I appreciate that. DM, is it Faison? Faison? Are you new here? I've never seen that name. Well, I mean, box specifically, like it's not necessarily like I think like I do think like those two moves are not great. Like I don't like Vooch and DeRozan together. Like it doesn't look very good. I think it's just the bigger thing about it is um they just stopped. Like they were so hell bent on Lonzo Ball being like everything that connected it all. And I'm aware that is $20 million down the drain, but they had to still do better if they were actually going to try to make this team work. And um they still didn't do that. And so like I'm aware like is Levine perfect? No. Like it just I'm not even saying that they needed to build a team around Zach in a sense, because I would even argue that they didn't even do that. It's just that they decided to put these groups, these three players together, and yes, it worked out for a start, but that's a half a season. They just decided like, yeah, we're gonna run these three players together, and we think that it's gonna work out well. And even though we know Lonzo Ball is injured and we know his injury, and we know that his injury history doesn't tell good things, we're just gonna try to keep rolling with them. And I just don't get it. Like if you're gonna try Vooch and DeRozan with Zach, and it like I mean first year it worked out okay, right? But then after last year, that's the part where I don't really understand. It's like it wasn't working last year, so why is it gonna work this year? And I understand like, well, okay, yeah, we'll trade Zach because we played better without him, and we were 10-7. Like, it's not necessarily about that specifically. Like, sure, maybe if you do trade Zach, it like, you know, maybe the team somehow figures out some like other things, but it doesn't make this team by any means any more significantly better. Like, you get an extra win or something. Like, this team still is just bad. And you're not trading Zach for like an all-star or even like a quality starting type player. So it just that's the part that just really mind boggles me about it. It's they are straight up like, oh, okay, well, we know that this didn't really work out last year, even though that all three of them played a ton of games together and they all shot a career high, but we're just gonna double down anyway. And then when Levine goes out and we're thinking of it potentially trading Zach, well, that's the only move we're gonna do. Like, that does not make any sense in my head, but I'm not gonna pay the big bucks, so yeah. Watching first time commentating? Alright, gotcha. Appreciate it, Jason. I hope I'm saying that right. Well, welcome in though. Hope you enjoy the community here. We didn't treat Zach fair is what I'm saying. The contracts welcome here. My honest opinion. Instead of making the scapegoat, I don't believe they actually thought Zach Vooch / tomorrow would work. Maybe you're right. Like maybe they just wanted to get to the playoffs and they knew that team is like good enough to be like 8th seed, and they were just like, yeah, we're good. And you're right. I don't think we are treating Zach necessarily fairly in a sense that like he is the problem now. Like I've been very clear that I think that this team has many problems. And if you want to say Zach LaVine is a problem, fine. But he is not the problem with this team. There are many problems with this team. And I think you could say that Zach contributes to part of some of those problems because he does have a tendency to shoot like, you know, too many mid-range shots in a sense. But like it's he's not the only one. I mean, we have a mid-range master on our team. I think that the offensive inconsistencies is not just one player. Yeah, you're right about that too. Like when Lonzo was here, we were stopping the mid-tier teams, but we couldn't win against any of the contenders. So yeah, I don't know. There's just a lot in my head that I'm like, I don't know what this team's doing, but I'm here for the ride. I'm not going anywhere. So, like I said, Bulls are now in 9 seed. I do think that again, I'm kind of just, at least what I'm watching from the rest of the league, it does seem like the Raptors and the Hawks have kind of just waved the white flag. They could still, even after waving the white flag and after trading some guys, they could definitely be like, yeah, we're still gonna try to make the playoffs. I don't know why they would do that, but I could still see it. So it's not like fully, you know, confirmed here for the Bulls that like, oh, you're in the play-in, but I would expect them to be in the play-in moving forward. I don't know why NBA.com is doing like, and I don't. It's not my internet, because if it was my internet, then the stream would be dead. Okay, here we go. So, like I said, Raptors trade OG Anunoby. Hawks trade. They're looking to trade DeJounte Murray, and like there's other reports that like it's only Young and Johnson that are like the only untouchables. So like I wouldn't be shocked if Clint Capella gets traded. But we'll see. Like, so kind of I'll put a question mark around the Hawks, because they could just honestly stand pat and then still try to get to the 10 seed. But I think the Raptors are honestly out, because I think Pascal Siakam is getting traded. And that would just ruin all their chances if that happened. The Nets, I don't think this Brooklyn team is very good. As much as people have complimented Mikal Bridges, I think this is kind of showing that he's not necessarily a number one option, or even a number two. And Brooklyn's defense is very inconsistent. And so I do think the Bulls should be beating Brooklyn in the end, but I don't know if that's going to actually be the case. So yeah, Miami did win, and so their win finally got implemented. As we just saw that Miami was down here in the 8th seed. They are now the 4th seed. That's how close all of this is right now. As you can see, that they all have the same record. So one win literally will jump you from the 8th seed to the 4th seed, which is very funny. But for the Bulls to even get into that sort of position, they need to get to the 8th seed. And the Bulls are 5 games behind the 8th seed, which also means they are 5 games behind the 4th seed, which is very funny to talk about. So the Bulls need to make up some ground here. The schedule is easier. The schedule is easier for this Bulls team moving forward. This was kind of the start of the schedule being easier, where you have 2 Hornets games back to back. You should win both. They did. So, good start. Now, against Houston, though, I don't know what to even think about this. I can see this going both ways. So this is just kind of like a major question mark for me. Golden State, I'm going to give the edge to Golden State at the moment. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to take that back. I'm going to also say question mark, but no, I'm still going to give the edge to Golden State. Okay, Bulls face San Antonio. The Bulls should win this one. And then Cleveland, I do have Cleveland having an edge. And then Toronto, the Bulls should win this one. This is a toss-up. I also think this is a toss-up. Edge to LA, but don't know. Bulls should win this one. Bulls should win this one. Bulls should win. So, at least in my head, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games that are like pretty much like solidified wins in my head if the Bulls play well, obviously. And then you have, I think, 1, 2, 3-ish games that are kind of toss-ups in my head. And then I do have like, some games where I do think that the teams are better. The only reason why I'm saying Phoenix is a toss-up is because I don't know who the hell is going to be healthy that day, and they're not playing well. I'm just going to be real. Phoenix is not playing well. So I do think that's going to be an interesting game to look at, because maybe the Bulls can steal one. But, yeah. Who knows? Whereas Lonzo, I've rarely seen him around the guys. He is rehabbing. There was a report earlier in December, or maybe was it January? I'm mixing up my days, honestly. But yeah, Billy came to the press conference and said that Lonzo is pain-free in his knee, which is a good sign, obviously. I'm just gonna be real, y'all. I'm happy he's pain-free in his knee. I take that with a grain of salt, though, because I know that once the ramp up starts and the rehab and everything, like, that's gonna be the big test. Not just getting to him being pain free. It obviously is a step in the right direction, but it doesn't really give me any hope. Like, I'll have some hope when we get the report back that he is like, 2 months in rehab and he's pain free. Like, that will be my, like, oh, okay, there's like a legitimate shot here that he can come back next year. But at the moment, man, I'm still in the mindset that I don't think he's ever playing again. I'm just gonna be honest. I mean, sometimes the players and coaches themselves still want to win and make it work after trades. That's what happened to us. I'm sure the front office at this point was not expecting that went down. Yeah, I mean, you're probably right. I mean, you could be right that maybe the front office was like actually trying, like thinking of like a full out rebuild, and then suddenly they started playing better, and then like, okay, well, we're playing better, so we just brought Zach back and Vooch back, like we might as well just try. I just still think that in the end, like you shouldn't be chasing play-in positions, like you really shouldn't be, but the front office will always do that, so not good. And obviously at this point it is way too late to like actually like try to like tear things down again. Like if you're actually gonna like try to like full out get like a terrible like a terrible record and a good draft pick, it's way too late. I think the Bulls right now are like they have like the 9th pick on Tankathon at the moment, so it just there's no reason to even try to even do that at this point. So yeah, the only thing is right now is to try to win. But I've also said this about this season. I would not have been mad if the Bulls traded Zach, Bulls traded DeRozan, Bulls traded Vooch, Bulls traded AC, and they still tried to make the play-in tournament. Like I would not have been mad at that. And it probably doesn't go very well, and maybe the Bulls do get to 10 seed, and who knows what could have happened. But at the very least, then I know for next season you're gonna be bad next season. Like, and then you can take that year, do a reset, get a good draft pick because you don't have full control of that pick next year. So, then after that you can start trying to win in 2026. Like I would have been perfectly fine with that, but they decided that, at least right now that's not what they're doing. So, I would. I'm just gonna kind of assume that this is like the main team moving forward. There might be a small trade here and there, but this is it. So yeah, Bulls need to completely collapse when Zach first went out for there to be a complete rebuild. In my opinion, well, I wasn't even asking for a complete rebuild. I just wanted to change. Honestly, I'm just being dead honest. No, yeah, you're right, optimistic Bulls fan. You're 1,000% right. That little surge gave AK a reason to keep trying. But like I said, we should not be chasing play-in games. That should not be the goal. We should be chasing playoff position and not playing games. Well, I'm gonna be real, Box. When Zach went down and he was like full out saying like I kind of want out. Like I was saying full out rebuild because the Bulls were 5-14 when Zach initially went down, right? And the Bulls at that point we could still be pretty awful this year, and get a pretty decent draft pick, and I would have been completely fine with the full out rebuild. But then obviously like we said, like there was a surge, and so now it's not the case. So I would like the retool still, but it's not going to happen. No, I agree with you, optimistic Bulls fan. Like, if the market is as trash as we think it is, which, by the way, I don't think it is, like, the true market for Zach LaVine is going to happen come February, because I don't know why people are like, oh my god, there's just no market for him. Like, first off, there's not really a market for someone that is injured anyway. Like, if you look at, like, a lot of things that happen, I mean, if someone is just injured, like, no one's going to trade for them, okay? So I'm not shocked that like they waited for him to see if he's actually healthy and such, and they're still probably not going to trade for him at the moment because he's still on like a minutes restriction. But the true market for Zach is if he is fully healthy in February, that's going to be the true market for him. That's going to show. And I truly think that there are some teams that are going to get desperate and they may give an offer. Do I think that it's going to be amazing? No, I don't. But the Bulls definitely have to consider it. But even then, I don't think the Bulls are going to do it, and I probably wouldn't do it either because I don't think it's worth it for what I think could be out there. It's not going to be like bare bones for what people are saying. It's going to be a little bit better than that. At least in my opinion. I think there's going to be like some like actual offers that are like okay, I still wouldn't pull the trigger. And you're right. I mean, like maybe they have to like reevaluate. Come off season. I still think that keeping Zach is probably best case scenario if he is back to being fully healthy. Now, if he's not back to being fully healthy and he's not back to being the player that we know, then we have to then talk about really moving him. But I'm not gonna make that as like full out assessment after just 2 games of it being bad. So yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call this game like a great game for Zach, but I do think this was like a pretty solid game for Zach because, but my biggest thing through like I'll say like the first like 5 games for me. I mean, assuming that Zach is playing because Zach almost didn't play tonight, he was questionable, right? The first 5 games for me, it's all about just making sure Zach looks fine mobility wise, right? I need to see that he can run up and down the court, at his normal speed. He can move his feet effectively because he obviously had right foot inflammation. So I just want to see that that's not giving him any sort of issues whatsoever. And that's going to be like my whole assessment. The biggest thing right now that I'm taking away from all this is that, one, he looks engaged because a lot of people are talking about him being not engaged, right, with this team. And I think he actually looks pretty engaged. So, like, the effort's there. 2, both ends of the court, he's moving his feet perfectly fine. And I think that's, like, my big thing. And then past, just the physical stuff, I think his defense the last 2 games has been really solid. And I'm happy to see that from him because if he is actually going to be like not as involved in the offense, which I could see that happening, right, where they're still trying to play all this team ball and Kobe's going to take a lot more responsibility and Zach is just going to be a lot more off ball, which he has been so far, then he has to truly buy in on the defensive end. And that would be good to see because then I think he still gets a lot of points in transition if he does that. But yeah, interested to see how it works out moving forward. There's only 2 logical returns for Zach. Either trade him for big expiring deals for future cap relief like Tobias, Harris, CP3, and picks, or try and get a good young player. I agree with you. Yeah. So either way, right, there's gonna be a salary filler. Okay. And I agree that it's either gonna be like, expiring deals and then you get some picks involved, or it's gonna be a young player, and some salary filler and some probably, either like a heavily protected first round pick or it's gonna be some second. I agree with that. Do I think it's worth trading Zach for that? We'll have to see. I need to see the actual like the deal, but we'll have to just kind of wait and see. All right. Zach's defense looks really good on the ball right now. I agree with that, but I think for me it's just about the effort and also again mobility wise it looks good because Zach's effort has been the problem. And I think he looks fine right now, and this is good. But I'm aware already, just so we know, like I don't ever expect him to be a good off-ball defender. He will never be a good off-ball defender, okay? But what I can expect from Zach is him to give good effort defensively on ball. If I just get that, I'm fine. Like I don't need any more from him, okay? Because the team still does need him to score, right? Like in the end, the team is going to need his points. So I do expect him to still save up most of his energy for the offensive end. But if he just gives me the good on-ball defense, and just effort, then I can live with it. I don't have any issues with it. I think it's a fair assessment, Box. I mean, I will also say this. I think Zach also passed the ball really well. He had that one turnover where it was like thrown between Javon Carter, I think Io. That was a bad turnover, but I do think he passed the ball also really well today. So, doing a lot more than just scoring out there. The last time I wrote here at the end of the regulation was great to see. Yeah, I mean that's obviously great to see, but like it's about like first off, we've seen Zach have good defensive possessions at the end of games. Like that's not abnormal. The thing that was really good to see was Zach was giving good defensive effort pretty much the entire game, right? That to me is the bigger thing. It's like I need to see just that good all defense the entire game, right? Kept teammates involved, played defense, kept moving instead of chilling when he didn't have the ball in his hands. Yeah. I just don't want to take back mid-taunt like Wiggins or Barnes and be stuck with them for 3 years. Oh, I agree with you. I don't want a long contract. I agree. Here say Zach is bad off-ball defender because he's extremely low. That's why I think he's bad because he tunnels vision on the ball a lot, and I mean a lot. I would argue that's basketball IQ though. not as low as he used to be. No, I mean, I think if you like, if Zach had the awareness, right, I agree with you that he would be making a lot better decisions. It's not like he doesn't know what to do, right? If he sees something happening, he understands what to do. But like you said, his awareness isn't there, and I would argue that that is basketball IQ. But you're right. Like if Zach had the awareness, he'd be fine. But he doesn't have the awareness. That's the problem. I mean, one of the things that I don't fully understand it with Zach, but um, like you know the saying "ball you man," right? Like you need to make sure that you can see the ball and also you're a man. Zach, for moments throughout the game, he'll just like watch his man only, and it's typically when his man's like coming off a screen or something, and that's when like Zach gets like, not, like, and this is kind of when the switching kind of screws over Zach and the team. Like they'll call switch and he isn't like he doesn't know what like where he's supposed to switch to. Like he may feel a screen but he doesn't know where exactly the screen was. And so like they'll say switch and he doesn't know where the guy that was screening is. He's just so focused on the dude that was, you know, in moving off ball, coming to the ball, like, and it was his man. And then they say switch, and then suddenly he doesn't know where the other guy is. So it does come down to making sure that he has just a lot better awareness. Awareness / perception is the same as being smart. I know people are smart, so I can still lack perception / special awareness in general. Well, okay. I guess Box. Let me think about. Let me ask you this. If when I say the word street smart, right? What do you consider that? MJ had a video talk about defense. He said multiple times, never look away from your assignment, never lose sight of your player. Always try to keep your peripheral vision on ball, but also never lose your assignment. Right. But like Zach straight up is just like, it's like he said, he's either just watching the ball or he's just like he's only watching his guy. He needs to watch both. He doesn't watch both. Zach said instantly turns the moment the ball moves. Yeah, it truly does. Like his ball, like, or his head, just like if it gets swung to the other side of the floor, it's like, oh, okay, the ball's over there now. But where's my guy? And remember, like when it's not like lack of awareness isn't just making sure that you know where your guy is. It's also being aware of when to rotate, right? It's like that's the part with Zach that like I don't understand with him fully. Like he doesn't understand to rotate, and it's because he doesn't see what's fully happening, right? And a lot of the time, right, when he isn't fully aware to rotate, it's because he's watching his guy. Like he's only watching his own man, so he doesn't see the other part of the floor where the play's happening. And then he's like, oh, I can't rotate. I'm too late. It's like that's your fault. Like you gotta be watching both. You don't know what to do when it is somewhere in between. Well, then do one or the other, because if you do nothing, right, that's the worst thing, because that puts your teammates in like the worst position possible, because you need to commit to one thing or the other. Because if you just are, if you're not committal to anything, then your teammates don't know what to do after. They're just like, okay, what are you doing? Like we're all frozen because you didn't decide to commit to something. So yeah, I would just rather him try to do one thing or the other than just stay in the middle of the floor or not do either. Like, guys play tonight. Some guy was posting up boot job. Zach was near, but he did nothing. He didn't double, but he didn't try to interrupt the play. He was just standing there dumbfounded. Yeah, like commit. Stay on your man, or go help Vooch. Like do one or the other, because if you go help Vooch, then the rotations will come. If you stay with your man, then everyone knows to play straight up, right? And then the help has to come from somewhere else. It just will help you. It'll help everybody if you just commit to one thing. And look, here's a play, for example, tonight where I actually thought that Zach did a good job of actually helping, and playing good at off-ball defense. Like there was a good play. Where was it?
Trying to get the ball back to Rozier, might have traveled.
Like, watch this play. Like, this is good. Like, I appreciate Zach doing this. So Zach sees that Nick Smith has the ball here. He drives around Caruso and has a step on him. So Zach comes over off of Rozier, comes over, slides over, and just like puts his hand in there, right? He doesn't have to do a lot. Like, I'm not asking for anything like special here, because like if Zach obviously overcommits, then Rozier's wide open, right? So like I'm not asking for anything like special, but Zach just came in, he got his hand on the ball, it interrupted Nick Smith's flow and rhythm, and Nick Smith ended up having to do like an awkward thing with the ball, right? And he ended up kneeing the ball out of bounds. Like that sort of stuff. This is the stuff I need to see. Like, and that's not hard. Like we said, that's just awareness. Probably short circuited? Yeah, probably. But like I said, like if I like I said earlier, if Zach just gives me good on-ball defense, I don't have an issue. Like, I'm aware he's not gonna give me good off-ball defense. Like that will never change. Okay, that I don't care who the coach is. Like, Zach's off-ball defense will never be good. Okay, but just because he has terrible off-ball defense does not mean that like you can't win with him. Like there are many teams where you have a terrible off-ball defender and they still win. Okay. The thing that Zach does need to do is he's got to play good on-ball defense. That is something that he is very capable of, and he has shown that he can do it. So just do that. If he does that, then we're fine. The Bulls defense has, like, as much as I've been trashing their offense, the Bulls defense has been pretty good recently. I'm gonna give them a lot of credit for their defensive turnaround, because as we know at the start of the season, it was pretty terrible to start the season. So I'm gonna give them a lot of credit for it. But last 15 games for the Bulls, in defensive rating, it is 5th. So give them a lot of credit for this. I'm gonna give them a lot of credit for their good defensive effort recently. And that comes for everybody. And obviously Zach, it's only been in 2 games, so I don't know where this is, but Bulls, I guess 4th, so, or 3rd, sorry. So yeah, this sort of effort just needs to continue. And I think we're fine. It will be good. Play for me, for your league team, my coach would probably go and say, he took a time when a guy failed in defensive assignment. He started his speech with, let's play smart, be decisive, guys, and he starts cursing them to oblivion, finishing his rant with, let's be smart now. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to me, like, moving forward, because like I'm starting to see with what, at least with the 2 games that Zach has been backing, it is in Charlotte, and he's not fully back, right? He's not 100% still. And even if he didn't have any sort of like inflammation going on, like I still don't think he'd be fully in game shape yet. This is starting to look like Olympic Zach, right? Like when Zach played for Team USA, he did come off the bench, but when he was playing, he was mostly in for on-ball defense, and his 3-point shooting, and obviously getting out of transition. That was like the 3 things that Greg Popovich asked him to do, and he did really well in that role. He wasn't the main focal point of the offense. He was not being a playmaker by any means. He was literally one of the main on-ball defenders, and he was a 3-point shooter and was getting out of transition. Those were the 3 things. So now on the Bulls, right? The Bulls can't afford for him to be that specific role, because like that's a role player, right? We can't afford for him to be in that role because we need his scoring, and he is one of the guys on this team that can legitimately get a shot at any moment in time, and he's also one of the best finishers at the rim. So we can't afford for him to do that. But I do think it'll be interesting to see if he is off ball more, right? Then will he be giving that same level of defensive effort and hopefully still getting like 20 points ish per game, right? I think that'll be a good recipe for success because of Kobe's emergence as an on-ball player. Like, I trust Kobe now, so it looks like at the moment in time that Zach also is trusting Kobe, and he's letting Kobe doing a lot of the on-ball stuff and bringing the ball up and initiating a lot of things. So hopefully that makes Zach's life easier, and then he can focus a little bit more on the defensive end. And then maybe it's going to sound weird, but Billy's going to have to actually start thinking about, if this is the case with Zach, right, then we can't have Zach being like the off-ball, rotator guy. Like, he actually then needs to actually like be a point of attack defender, because that's his strength. He is best being a point of attack defender rather than him being a rotating player, right? The team USA his role was be Klay Thompson but more athletic. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it, I guess. I would say this, like, Zach was also kind of like the backup point guard, so I guess there was a little bit more that he was doing as like the backup point guard. But yeah, like, that's a good way to describe it, is be like, you're Klay Thompson, you're gonna shoot threes, but you're not even gonna come off screens. Like, you're just kind of like a standstill shooter, and you're gonna cut. You're gonna be kind of just moving around the offense, and then defensively, I need you to pick up like at half court and such. So, obviously, he's not gonna be picking up at half court on this team if you don't do that. But yeah, be interesting to see. All right. I'm going to, because it's 10 o'clock, I'm going to actually call it there. I'm going to do a little quick preview of the Bulls versus Rockets, and then I'm going to go ahead and end stream. So, Bulls face the Rockets in their next game. Let's see here. So, the Rockets have had a pretty solid season, considering what they were last year. Obviously, they were a pretty terrible team last year. Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks have come in and they've offered some good stuff. It's kind of interesting because Jalen Green has not exactly had the best year. I've even seen some Rockets people saying like they would actually want like Jalen Green to like come off the bench because he hasn't had that great of a year. But still, he's still deadly. So we can't be just taking him lightly because he's not having the best of years. So Jalen Green this year is only shooting 40% from the field. He's averaging 17 points per game. But you can just see the shooting percentages are pretty down. Yeah. The big guy that I am mostly concerned about, because the Bulls seem to always kind of have issues against like a guy like this, it's Alperen Sengun. This dude is playing so well this year. I'm gonna be hella interested to see if he actually gets an All-Star nod. It's so tough in the Western Conference in the first place, but he's played so well this year, and the Bulls need to find a way to slow him down. We know Fred VanVleet is still gonna be Fred VanVleet. That has not changed. But this has been the guy for the Rockets this year. So the Bulls need to figure out a way to slow down Sengun, because I think he's gonna give Vooch fits if he's starting. So maybe we might need to see more Drummond, even if Vooch goes back into the starting lineup against the Rockets. So this is gonna be, I think, a tougher game, obviously, than the Hornets, but just in general, even though the Bulls are at home, the Bulls play better at home, so it should be a little bit easier in that sense. But Bulls got to get this win if they're gonna even have a chance, in my opinion, to get into like the conversation for the 8th seed and higher in the Eastern Conference. So you can't afford to like lose any more games here, because 5 games is already hard enough to get back, and we're in January now, so there's not really a lot of time here. So let's see how the Bulls do in this one. Like I said, Şengün is the guy that I'm most concerned about. That dude has had one hell of a year. And the Bulls need to be much better in terms of their offensive output than obviously we've seen the last 2 games, if this is going to be a close one. So do better, because this team defensively is very good. So let's see if the Bulls can do it better. All right, I appreciate y'all hanging out with me tonight. The stream did not F at all, did not drop any frames, so I'm happy to see that, but I'm worried it's going to start doing it soon, so that's kind of also the reason why I want to end. But thank you for hanging out with me tonight. If you have not already, hit the like button on the stream. It helps me out a ton. All the VOD watchers, just want to say thank you. I truly appreciate it. I'm seeing that a lot of you are actually watching the VOD, and I truly appreciate you guys just checking in, even if you can't make it to the live stream. So it really means a lot just to see all you guys just listening in or watching, even when the stream isn't going. I truly do appreciate all the support that you guys are giving me. But Bulls get the win against Charlotte tonight in OT, and it was not a good win. I'll say it, but it just was not a good win. Hopefully the Bulls do a much better performance against the Houston Rockets on Wednesday at the United Center. But that's it for me tonight. Peace out, y'all. Have a good night. Be safe.